The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
I need you to knock some sense into me. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, I don't know.
I enjoy listening to you. I don't always agree with everything.
All right, enough of this persiflage.
So, you want my question?
I'm certainly not going to get myself in trouble by telling you what to do.
That makes great sense. Gosh, that's good.
Did I overwhelm you with words and wisdom?
I've got 7 kids. I feel like I could call you every day.
What? Wait, you're telling me I'm wrong? Disconnect.
Yes, I am, Dr. Ray.
You just need to tune in to Dr. Ray, honey. He's got all the answers.
Am I right or am I right?
Probably.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
The voice of Steve Clark, engineer extraordinaire with Ave Maria Radio, introducing me as coming from Canton, and I'm not. Once again, I'm here in Ann Arbor because last night we taped 2 episodes of Living Right with Dr. Ray, the TV show, now in season number 15, and it's an ugly, ugly thing when I look back at season number 1, and I see me there on stage and think, that's my kid. Who is that dude? But we had a wonderful time with the audience. You guys, any of you listening now, you made the show. You truly made the show. The audience always makes the show. Your energy level, your cooperation with questions, the interaction, the bits, all the various good things you do to make the show pop. So I thank you so very much. And tonight, again, we got 2 more shows. Some great guests, Sister John Dominic. And you guys, you know Father Joe Kropp. He is so very popular here. And I'm going to guarantee you we're going to have some fun with Father Joe because he is one funny dude as well as a holy priest. So let's get to the business right now here of the program, which is to take your calls. 877-573-7825. 877-57-EQUAL. That is the number to call to get onto the program. There really is no limit to what you can call about as long as it pertains to life, which is a pretty broad topic, and faith, which is even broader, infinitely broader, and there is an intersection between the two for many of us, because living our faith means living a better life. But situations come up, of course. This is a world that isn't perfect. It's a fallen world. So, 877-573-7825. You know what I just noticed? My phone is beeping, and I've been attempting to get a hold of this person for a couple of weeks now. So I probably can't go to a break right now, Andrew. I know. I got to do this show. Okay. 877-57-EQUAL. Questions about kids, circumstances, adults, relationships, emotions, frustrations, the stuff of life. Can't do therapy here, can't diagnose, but give a few ideas. A few things that hopefully will be helpful. You will get a hold of Eric Dumont, the initial line, our call screamer. Eric is a great call screamer. He's very pleasant, very thoughtful. He softens you up before you get to me. And then Andrew Kruchek, my producer man here in Ann Arbor. I've often said that the experts, now see, that's an umbrella term, and I know, and forgive me for generalization, but the child-rearing experts, there's just millions of them, as a group, I qualified it, as a group, are not real comfortable with discipline. It's something that they would like you to have to avoid at all costs. They don't see it as necessarily good teaching. They see it as a last resort. When reason fails, when sticker system fails, when iMessages fail, when win-win scenarios fail, when everything that you can do to be a gentle parent fails, then okay, you may have to discipline the child in the sense of holding him accountable and enforcing a consequence. However, the language that they use reveals their discomfort at getting to that stage. Some years back, I saw a very popular, I think it was either a parenting magazine or a family-type magazine. One of the lead headlines was, "Using time out with your children." So I looked at the article. I thought, okay. And they listed this lady who is a professor at some university, child development person. First paragraph. "Sitting a child in a chair is a humiliating experience." Whoa. I don't know, man. You better keep your kid away from chairs. When I was in the schools, about 10 years, as a consultant to the special education programs in Columbiana County in Ohio, as well as general education. And at the time, we had to attend a number of in-services that I enjoyed just sitting in on. There was a program very popular in school systems at the time. I'm not sure it still is, but variants of it very much are. This program touted itself as a no-nonsense, back-to-basics discipline program to get order and structure into the classroom. Well, sounds good, right? Sounds good on paper. The specifics of the program were this. You place your classroom rules on the board. However, you do not place them with negative phrasing. You don't say, "No talking out." You say, "Raise hand to speak." You don't say, "Don't leave your seat without permission." You say, "Stay in seat until given permission." You don't say, "No hitting." You say, "Keep hands to self." All right, now we got to say a positive here. We don't want to say I'm negative. So already you've got discomfort with the phrasing of the discipline. Okay, now the crux of the program. If a child breaks one of the positively stated discipline rules, he can go to the board and put his name up there. Puts his name on the board. Now, I always wondered about that because I know an awful lot of experts would say, "Oh boy, that's dangerously close to shaming a child, especially in front of the whole social outfit there." But you put your name on the board, or the teacher puts the child's name on the board. Keep the kid from having to go up and be scrutinized by the rest of the class. Of course, some kids like that. We just automatically assume they don't. Hey, the kid that gets in trouble might like it. Name's on the board. That's a warning. If said child breaks another one of the positively stated rules, then a check mark is put next to the name, either by the teacher, maybe the kid. At that point, a consequence kicks in. The teacher decides on the consequence. Maybe it's 5 minutes sitting on the curb outside during recess, or a particularly egregious offense, it is staying in during recess. So the teacher decides on some consequence, usually pretty benign. We're not going to send you home writing an essay and ask to come back and be 400 words and I'm going to look at it. When I used to do in-services, I asked the teachers, how many of you use some variant of this? And a very common variant is green, yellow, red. When my kids went to a local Catholic school for the first couple of years of their education, that's the system they used. Green, yellow, red. You have cards on your desk. If your card's green, you're just doing fine. You haven't broken any classroom rules. If you do break a classroom rule, then you turn over a yellow card. You're in warning state now. Watch yourself. You're on parole. Another offense, red. That means there's a consequence of some type. Usually, again, benign. I asked the teachers who use this system, I said, you see this is a pretty definitive discipline system? Oh, yes. Oh, gosh, yes. So I'd ask, how many kids in your class? Well, let's just say 20. 20. What's the standard school year? 180 days. Let's do the numbers. If every kid in your class realized he could misbehave one time per day and experience no consequences other than a yellow warning, your very strict discipline system would allow, built into it now, 3,600 pieces of misbehavior over the course of a school year without any consequence. One comeback to that was, well, the kids don't realize that. They just don't want to get a yellow. I said, well, not all kids don't realize that. My son in the first grade came home, all excited. Hey, Dad, I can do something wrong one a day and not get in any trouble. He figured out the system. Andrew scammed the system in the first grade. I'm going to push F5. How did I push F5 here, guys? Okay, my computer's froze. I just pushed it. I said, Andrew, I'm going to give you a week. If I find out that you did something wrong, because I'm going to talk to your teacher, I'm going to say, please tell me if he does something. I want to handle it at home. The teachers don't like that as a general rule, but I was pretty persuasive about it. Plus, he had a sister. He had a sister going to the same school, so we were going to find out what he did before he even got home. He rushed into the house. Dad, did I tell you what Andrew did? I wrote it down. I got triplicate copies of it. One of them is in the lawyer's office, which, by the way, that sister did become a lawyer in the Army. Very strict, no nonsense system allowed 3,600 pieces of misbehavior, which if every kid was my son Andrew, would have figured out, this is great, what a gig. What's Andrew now? He's an engineer in the Department of Defense. I don't know. Maybe he realized. 877-573-7825. 877-57 equal is the number to call here. And I am in the wonderful studios of Ave Maria Radio Communications, a partner with the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network in producing The Doctor Is In.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
Hello, Steve Ray here from Footprints of God Pilgrimages. The land of our Lord and Our Lady is calling us. We're heading back to the Holy Land over Christmas break this year. We have the best, most reliable guides and services awaiting us. The holy sites are open, and the local Christians are anxious to see us. Galilee, Jerusalem, Nazareth, Bethlehem. No crowds, no lines. Hope you can join us.
Find the Ave Maria Radio travel tab at AveMariaRadio.net.
Maybe you've been hearing a lot about the need to make a spiritual communion while participating from home in a live-streamed or broadcast Mass. By asking for spiritual communion, we are acknowledging that the Holy Mass is the perfect, best way to worship God. The priest intercedes perfectly for us with God the Father because he acts in persona Christi. This is the time to see that through the priest's representation of Christ's sacrifice on Calvary, we are never separated from our Lord. Jesus, I embrace you and unite myself wholly to you.
In her diary, St. Faustina wrote, "If only I had a spiritual director from the beginning, I would not have wasted so many of God's graces. If even the saints needed spiritual guidance, how much more do we?" The nonprofit Revive app lets you meet virtually with certified spiritual companions, scheduling sessions at your convenience, helping you grow closer to Christ. Your first 2 sessions are free. Download the Revive app today. That's REVIV, and then the number 3.
Gotta go give a congratulations to Holy Family Communications, serving Shenandoah, Virginia, one of the most beautiful places around. 11 years on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. And congratulations to Lawrence Kapp, the team there at WHFV. From all of us here at EWTN, 11 years. Way to go, guys. My daughter went to Mary Baldwin. We had to go right through the Shenandoah Valley when we went to see Hanny. All righty, let's see where we're going here. How about this? Always reminds me of the time that I no longer had to pay my mortgage. Yeah, we had a ceremony. Bernadette, and that's who's calling from New York. Bernadette. Hi, Bernadette.
Hi, Dr. Ray. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, sure. Shirley, what's up?
I'm calling because a couple of days per week, I go to help my sister-in-law homeschool her kids. They're 5, 7, 9, and 11. I noticed whenever you say to the 5, 7, or 9-year-old, get your Mass and meet me at the dining room table, or get your spelling or whatever subject, the 5-year-old sometimes will just say an outright no and go on playing whatever he's playing with. The 7 and the 9-year-old will just ignore you as if they didn't hear and go right on doing whatever they were doing. So I've listened to you a long time, so I know about your fair, good, excellent, behavior at the end of the day. But I'm wondering, is in the moment when they're just refusing to cooperate, what's a good response for me as the aunt, or for my sister-in-law as the parent?
Well, where's Mom when they do this?
She tends to nag, like, Claire, get your Mass. Come on, Claire, get your Mass. It's just like nagging, repeating, but no real consequence.
So when do the kids finally decide to obey?
Oh, like after 100 times of hearing her nag.
She's gonna quit homeschooling. That's the number one reason parents quit homeschooling, because they can't control. One of the things that my wife did when we homeschooled is no privileges at all begin until your work is done. So I don't know what they're doing while they're ignoring you. What are they doing, Bernadette? They playing?
Yeah, playing with toys.
Oh, the toys are gone. Toys are gone. Now. Oh, absolutely. Why would she just continue to tell them, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, when they're sitting there playing? Why would she do that?
I think she thinks it occupies them. So, there's also a 2-year-old boy, so she wants to keep him occupied during the day. Or, because she's doing so many grade levels, she'll do a subject with the older kids while the younger kids are off playing in the living room.
Well, the rule is this: when it's your time to be instructed, I ask you gently, kindly, once, and then whatever you're doing, I take.
Okay.
That's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. She's unwittingly training the kids to ignore her.
Yep.
And I got to believe she's frustrated as all get out.
Oh, it's battered parent syndrome.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a matter of not necessarily homeschooling being the only problem. It's they basically blow her off pretty much across the board.
Yeah.
All right. So she needs some real discipline skills. Maybe you can model them. Maybe you ask her this. Do you mind if I simply do something to get their cooperation? And if she says out of desperation, yes, please, just do whatever you have to do. I'm just so tired. I'm so exhausted. I'm tired of going to confession and confessing my frustration. Do that. Just say, hey, kids, we got a new rule. When it's your turn to come to school, I'm going to ask you once. After that, guys, I come and take whatever you're playing with. And if you go play with something else, I'll take that too. You'll get to the point where you can play with picking your nose, I guess. But that's about all that's going to be left.
Okay, I'll let her know that. One idea she's operating under is when the kids are young, 5, 7, the punishment has to be immediate.
No, it doesn't.
If it's too far removed.
No, it doesn't.
Right. I agree too.
No, it
doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't, because first of all, they're not 2 and 3. That's much more like the case when they're 2 and 3. When you're 5, all you say is you remind them, you know, honey, you didn't do this when I called you. So this is what I'm going to do.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. A.
Sure. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, Bernadette. You know, it's interesting. My wife, at one point, for about 3, perhaps 4 years, my wife was homeschooling 10 kids. She was monitoring about 80 subjects. Andrew was the oldest at 12 when Lizzie was born. So when Lizzie started homeschooling, she was about 4. That made Andrew 16. Now, he did start to go to college at 16, but there was still homeschooled stuff. So it was 2 or 3 years there where Randy was pretty much homeschooling home. And the rule was, if your work is not done, no privileges begin. Nothing. You don't have anything. It's very simple. That's just the operating principle. It wasn't nasty. It was just, that's just how we operate. This is not play school. This is legit school. And I remember when my son first went to college, he came home and he said, you know, Mom, college is a lot easier than you were. I said to Randy, I said, good girl. Good girl. All right, I got time. I'm going to see. Yeah, I got time. Margaret left me. She was a teacher. And she was, some of the Catholic schools, apparently, as she either taught in, had palm reading and meditations and New Age stuff. Why does this happen? I don't know, Margaret. I don't know. I don't know where the pastor is. I don't know what the principal's thinking. What is this stuff? But I think you have every right to bring it to someone's attention. It may just simply be a teacher individually deciding, oh, this is kind of cool. Keep in mind, too, that since the sisters have stopped being the main educators in Catholic schools like they were in the 50s and 60s, an awful lot of the teachers are not Catholic. So they bring their own predilections to the classroom. My son ran into that situation when he was in Catholic high school. Some of the teachers were not Catholic, and they were bringing definitely things that didn't jive well with the Catholic faith. Let's go to Andrew. Andrew wanted to tell me something about disciplining. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, hello, Dr. Ray.
What you got for me?
You caught my attention today with discipline. I'm 58 years old. I was married in 1990, and me and my wife had a daughter, 2 daughters, the first one, so we had 6 children total. And the oldest is started going to, we live in a Hutterite community. So in 1996, she was born in 1991, she went to the community dining room for children from 5 to 15. So she came home and was crying. And I wasn't rough or whatever. I just said, why are you crying?
Andrew, I'm going to cut you off for a second there. Wait a minute. I want you to save the main point till after this hard break, because that music gives us no wiggle room. We're going to have to stop here in about 15 seconds. Stay right there, if you will, and we'll find out what your little daughter was crying about. I'm Dr. Ray. Thank you for joining me.
How does freedom affect our actions? According to the Catholic Catechism, freedom makes us responsible for every act that we have directly willed. Despite her efforts to place all the blame on the serpent, Eve was directly responsible for initiating and committing original sin. She knew God had forbidden her to eat from the tree of good and evil, yet she did it anyway. Cain deliberately killed his brother Abel. King David deliberately committed both adultery and murder. None of the three were ignorant of the gravity of their acts, and there were no mitigating circumstances that diminished their responsibility. However, David was particularly remorseful when confronted with his guilt. The Catechism tells us that the right to the exercise of freedom, especially in moral and religious matters, is an inalienable requirement for the dignity of the human person. This is Peggy Stanton, and this has been the Order of Malta's Minute with the Catechism.
Christ is the answer, with Father John Riccardo.
I repeat, I'm sure ad nauseum to the guys who are here, a line from Pope Benedict Emeritus now, who used to say over and over again, to be a Christian is not the result of an ethical choice, but the result of an event, an encounter, a meeting with the living God in the person of Jesus Christ. This and nothing less is what it means to be a Christian. So we said the new evangelization is new in ardor. That's a kind of old-fashioned word. What in the world is ardor? Ardor is zeal, fervor, passion. Are you passionate about Jesus? Passionate about Jesus. Are you zealous for Jesus? Are you fervent for Jesus? Are we fervent for the gospel? Are we passionate about helping this world come to know him?
Dr. Ray Guarendi here in Ann Arbor in the studios of Ave Maria Radio, preparing tonight for Living Right with Dr. Ray, the 2 episodes we plan on doing with great guests, Sister John Dominic and Father Joe Krupp. He's a favorite around these parts. He should be a favorite everywhere because he is a truly holy and talented priest. All right, talking to Andrew from South Dakota. Had a situation, lives in a Hutterite community, had a situation, there was a local, a community dining room, and his daughter came home from eating in this dining room, crying. Andrew, you still there?
I am.
Okay, now how old's your daughter?
She is at the present. She is
when
30.
When she came home crying.
Oh, at that time, she was. They joined that. She was born in 91, and she's 5 years old when they go to the children's dining room. So she was in 96. She was 5.
Okay, came home crying, and what was that about?
Well, she never really told me. I just said, "Well, why are you crying?" And she said, "Well, I just did this and that." Never really came up with a square answer, and I said, okay, now think about it that way. If you wouldn't have done this and that or whatever you're not coming up with, you wouldn't have got spanked. So you obviously did something you shouldn't have. It didn't take long, and I don't know, either she quit telling me or she just went off into her room and cried it off, or I'm thinking she kind of improved with those spankings.
Okay.
And then the second one.
So what? Let me interrupt you, Andrew. What are you saying? What are you asking me, sir?
Well, I just want to say one more thing. Then the second one did the same thing, and I said the same thing. And then when he got up to adulthood, where they went to other houses, other colonies. They said, you can have a drink, but make sure you see where it's coming from and have it in front of you. That's the way I raised my children.
Okay.
I never said, you ain't going to go there, ain't going there.
Sounds good, my friend. Thank you. Thank you so much for the comments. Let's go to Pat from New York. She has a comment. I hope it is more than a comment. I hope it is praise. Pat's not ready? All right. I got Pat on the line. I will just hold briefly for Pat. Actually, Eric, you don't have to keep typing. You can send Pat my way, and I'll find out myself. Okay. Okay. All right. We'll see what we got there. 877-573-7825 is the number to call to get onto the program. 877-57 equal. Eric is still screaming our calls. I talk about how the experts are ill at ease with firm, confident discipline. They've labeled it in many pejorative ways. They've labeled it as autocratic, dictatorial. They've labeled it as domineering. They've labeled it in so many ways as negative. It's just negative. It's a stain on the parent-child relationship when a parent has to do this. What an irony that is. I've lived my life as a shrink, seeing so many parents with kids of all ages. And it's so sad how many parents do not enjoy their kids. And they don't enjoy them because their kids are unruly or difficult or uncooperative. Not by nature. In other words, they don't have a strong-willed child. They don't have an oppositional child. They don't have an unruly child. By nature, they have a kid who is responding to their reluctance to take firm charge, or in many cases, to know how to take firm charge, as our previous caller, where the homeschooling mom continually just asked the kids to come to the table for their lesson. She didn't back it up with anything. The kids just blew her off. It's like, it's interesting how quickly kids learn to read us. When they know, you're just going to repeat yourself. And maybe you'll get louder. Maybe you'll get more emotional. That's usually the trajectory. They just continue to do what they're doing. Why comply? Nothing's going to happen. And I've often wondered, as I explore with parents their reluctancies to take charge in a common sense way, are they afraid to do some kind of psychological damage? Do they think that kids are naturally cooperative, and if you just reason properly, they're going to see, they're going to realize it's important to be instructed as you're homeschooled? That's really a wise thing. And if you continue to reason with them and explain it to them, at some point it's going to sink in. But reasoning with kids so often follows the laws of diminishing returns. The more you reason, the more you talk, the farther behind you get. These are not eminently rational creatures. These are kids. We've lost that somewhere along the way. I had a woman come to me once. She was majoring in child development. And she had 2 or 3 children of her own. She was going back to school. She said, "Do you think children are naturally cooperative?" And I, being a psychologist, answered her with a question. "What do you think?" She said, "I'm a mom of 3, and I don't see them naturally inclined to cooperate. They have to be taught to cooperate." She said, my professor in child development gave us one question on our exam. That was it. That was the question. Are children naturally cooperative and eager to please, if properly reasoned with? I said, what do you think your prof wants to hear? Oh, I know what my prof wants to hear. That children are naturally cooperative and eager to reason with. You disagree? Yes, she goes, I'm a mom. I got 3 kids, and it certainly doesn't seem to be the case. What did you put? I asked. She said, I put a mix. I put a mix of both because I knew my prof wanted me to accept all the teaching that we've been getting, that if you just skillfully reason and persuade, make your case as a parent, the child will see the light. Yes, mother, you make so much sense. And then they come to my office completely frustrated. Maybe I'm just not a good reasoner. 877-573-7825, 877-57-EQUAL. Bottom of the program, you call now, we can still get you on. I'm Dr. Ray.
The Heart of the Interior Life with Elizabeth Jangle.
In St. Ignatius of Loyola's teaching on the discernment of spirits, St. Ignatius uses the phrase, the good spirit, to indicate God and the instruments of God's grace that move within the human heart to communicate His direction. Father Timothy Gallagher writes, the good spirit certainly indicates, above all, God and His direct action in the human heart. For Ignatius, good spirit also signifies the angels, who by God's design serve as instruments of His love for His children. The term the good spirit also indicates the many marvelous ways God communicates within our hearts through the life of grace, the gifts of the Holy Spirit, the influences for good in the world, and through the communion of saints. We too may also be called upon to be an instrument of grace in someone else's life. How will you open your heart and your day so that you may be an instrument of the good spirit?
For more information, visit AveMariaRadio.net.
60 on 10 with Monsignor Charles Pope.
The fourth commandment, honor your father and your mother. This commandment enjoins on us as young children not only obedience to their parents and even older children, great honor for them, but also gratitude for all of our elders, teachers, employers, and leaders. It also directs citizens to a proper love of our country. So it's a rich commandment. And it also puts great requirements on those who are in those positions to be worthy of the honor that is due them. This commandment is fundamentally given to us by God because without respect for our elders, there can be no teaching, and we cannot hand on the wisdom of previous generations. This commandment is rich and it is for us. The fourth commandment, honor your father and your mother.
For more about the 10 Commandments, visit EWTNRC.com.
When I used to play the organ in restaurants and sometimes sleazy bars, the manager, who was pretty much accepting of his fiefdom, would come and say, that's the kind of music you have to play like that. When people are eating, you just play that soft listening music. And then once the dinner hour is over, as you move toward 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, you can start picking up the pace. Well, what's interesting is back then, sometimes I didn't start until 9. And when it was 2 o'clock, we'd go out to eat breakfast and something like that. And I usually get home, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I was in college. Now, I'm ready to quit. I'm ready to quit before even 9. I played recently at a place about some years back, and I told him, I said, look, I'll come in. I knew the guy, and I said, I'll come in periodically, and we'll just give you some dinner music and whatever. And when it got to be about 8:30, I'm thinking, am I done yet? Okay, I got to get out of here. 877-573-70. Oh, this is interesting. All right, I want to hear this young lady for sure. 877-573-7825. 877-57 equal. Ooh, that's I want to talk to her. Is this young lady ready there, Eric, to be spoken to? Still speaking? All right, I'll give you a few more minutes to put up a couple of details. I can go to Jennifer now. Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you.
You got an interesting insight here, my dear.
I really do. I grew up very, very strange in a very kind of liberal town with liberal parents. Not really liberal. They were actually kind of conservative. But I was never disciplined, not even once, you know. And I remember, like...
Wait, stop right there.
So
Wait, stop.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that you didn't have a bedtime? You're telling me that you could...
Nope.
You could leave whenever you want and come home whenever you wanted? You're telling me there were no limits?
Exactly. No limits. If I wanted pizza and ice cream for dinner, that's what I got.
Were your parents following a certain philosophy, or were they just lazy?
No, well, a little bit lazy, but they were also a little bit hippie-ish. But also, I grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is, you know, I mean, pot was legal. You know, I used to smoke it with the cops, and, you know, it was a different setting, but everybody trusted everybody. Nobody locked their doors. It was very safe. You know, they thought I was at my neighbor's house, and I was in New York City at a Steppenwolf concert at the Fillmore East, you know, and then my brother had a child, and he kind of raised her the same way. And she's not as much of a free spirit as I am, but she's very well together. She went to the University of New Mexico. She's studying Alzheimer's, and she was never disciplined, not once, not even once. And the same with me, you know. And I never had children to know what kind of a parent I would be.
Jennifer, how many years ago was this?
I'm 74 in February.
So this was...
way ahead of everybody else, you know. And I mean, I used to go over to my friend's house, and my friend's parents used to, like, ground me because they know I had no discipline. So they would take it under their spell. But, you know, that's the way I was raised.
Are you making a comment? Are you saying that that can be a successful way to raise a kid? Or are you... Oh, that's what you're saying. Okay, so you...
Yes, I'm absolutely saying that because of me and because of my niece, who is now 25 and a lovely young woman. Yeah, I am. She never got spanked. I never got spanked. No discipline whatsoever. None.
Here's where I'm going to dispute you. You grew up in a very different time. I think radically different time. You grew up in the 60s. And there was no social media. There's no smartphones. And that, in fact, the culture was probably a little more of one mind in what was good behavior. So a different 2 generations ago time. That's one. 2, and I think this suits your niece. There are those kids who by nature and who by temperament do seem to naturally flow well through life. They're not the majority, but they're there. There are kids that come from places that are so turbulent and ugly, and they become beautiful human beings. How do you explain this? Well, part of it is their inborn personality. That's probably the way it was with you and your niece. So where I would dispute you is that yours worked, your parents worked, because they had a special daughter and a particular time and place. You try that now, and the odds are sky high that at age 74, you will have a person who has lived a wretched, miserable life if they live that long. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. It does. And there's always the unique, rare situation, I guess. You know, and my brother, who I grew up with, he's just a doll. He's just the most wonderful person on earth, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't know. None of us were disciplined. We were loved, you know, and you know, my parents were weird, I guess. I don't know, you know.
You
but
could always.
My friends, they got in trouble. My friends, they would get in trouble. They got pregnant. They were getting grounded. They were having problems. We never had any of those issues.
Well, that explains something. If your friends who were, as you say, raised kind of with an Ann Arbor looseness, as you described it, and they got themselves messed up totally, and their parents were finally trying to put some limits on them, I think their discipline was a response to the fact that the kids were messing up their lives, as opposed to they disciplined their kids and therefore their kids rebelled and messed up their lives.
Well, some of them, and I guess I misspoke, because some of them did have very strict parents. You know, like I said, their parents would discipline me. You know, if I was just visiting, you know, they'd ground me, you know, but my parents would never even have thought of doing the same thing.
If you were 12 years old and you left the house and you didn't come back till 3 a.m, are you saying your parents would have said, "Hey, hi, honey, hope you're okay"?
I swear to God on a Bible that actually happened to me. I was, John Lennon had legalized marijuana in Ann Arbor, and we had hash patches. I was actually 14, but I was smoking pot with the cops, and they were bogarting my joint, and I went out. I came home at 4 o'clock in the morning. My parents didn't even know it. I was in bed, and I saw them in the morning, and they said, "Oh, how are you, dear? Did you have a good time last night?"
So they knew you stayed out till 4? They knew you stayed out till 4 a.m.?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Jennifer, I'm going to say something. In the child-rearing world, you are a freak of nature.
Well, do you know who Judith Kestenberg is?
No.
She's a famous, she's a noted child psychiatrist in New York City. I almost married her son. But, yeah, she used to study us. Me and her son, actually. Yeah, maybe I did have a rare...
Oh,
you know, I'm
no question. No question. And when you said you're...
But I'm deeply religious.
Well, that's interesting, too, because you weren't given any religion.
No, I was given freedom to... They never forced me to go to church. I asked them to take me to church.
All right. One more point before I let you go. That is another piece of evidence for my perspective, which is the same temperament, the same inborn personality that you were given that kept you from being incredibly stupid and self-destructive also inclined you toward religion. There was something about faith that appealed to you internally, wired in, God's hand, whatever. So that speaks to that. But I'm going to tell you, honey, as a shrink all these years, doing something like that now is a major, major risk to the well-being of that child. But an interesting perspective, and you're going to make a look-back call because there was so much to comment on. Thanks, Jennifer. Bless you, dear. This is Dr. Ray.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
The following program is brought to you in part by MyCatholicWill.com. Surveys show that more than half of Americans do not have a will. at mycatholicwill.com. It takes as little as 15 minutes to write your will and secure a legacy of faith. mycatholicwill.com is the exclusive online destination for creating a Catholic will. The process of writing a will is simple and now more accessible than ever. mycatholicwill.com, a legacy of faith for those you love.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
And we need to pray for all our world leaders and all those who are in such danger. See, in a day and age where people are getting further away from God, you get further away from goodness. Only God is good. You remember what our Lord said one day? Why do you call me good? He said. Only God is good. Only God.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
This program brought to you in part by Ave Maria, Florida, a big kind of small town where golf carts take you everywhere and there's always something fun around the corner. Discover championship golf, resort-style amenities, and a town center full of shopping and dining. With Ave Maria University and Ave Maria Catholic Church at its heart, it's a community full of connection and charm. More than 25 model homes are available for viewing. More information can be found at avemaria.com. That's avemaria.com.
Lest you think that Jennifer was raised wildly unusual, you're mistaken. There were pockets, definitely, especially during what would be considered the flower children days. There were definitely philosophies that children will naturally find the good way, and that's still alive today in gentle parenting and philosophies like that. They will naturally find the better way if they're not shaped by their parents or by society. I've come across so many philosophies that say, as a parent, if you instruct your child, if you shape your child in certain directions, that is domineering, that stunts their natural growth, their natural enthusiasm, their natural experimentation with who they are. I've seen those philosophies. They're all over the place for a while there. And the idea that the child will naturally meander their way toward maturity and adjustment, even in the minority of times that might happen, if your goal is to expose a child to a faith-based reality, that's less likely to happen. They may grow up to be civilized, not a serious antisocial, acting out, addicted type existence, but they will probably have little of a religious perspective. Why would they? And I've seen that idea. I even deal with it in one of my books where the question is, shouldn't children be free to choose their religion? You force a religion upon a child, that's overwhelming their independence and their own innate personality, so therefore you don't force religion upon a child. Well, first of all, that's diametrically counter to what Christ and the apostles established. You expose a child to religion because you believe it is the truth. Why wouldn't I want you to have the truth? But you're wrong. It's not the truth. Well, you say that, and I say it is, and I'm the parent, and therefore I am obligated to teach the truth, to expose the child to the truth. You call it forcing. I don't. I call it exposing. But, not unusually, I remember once I got a call from a local radio show. This is way, way, way back. And the question was, should parents force religion upon their children, or should they allow the children to be free to choose their own? Well, you didn't have to be a psychologist to analyze that language. Force versus free. Who wouldn't take free over force? The problem is that's not the way you expose someone to religion. But I would be curious to know how our previous caller actually came to the faith. Be fascinating to know this. At what age? Under what circumstances? And why? And if her parents were alive when she did, I wonder if their attitude was, well, whatever you want's fine with us. And at what point would her freedom distress them? She says, I really like using cocaine. It makes me feel really alive. Well, whatever you want is fine with us. This is Dr. Ray. Thank you for joining me here on The Doctor Is In. Walk with God. That's no force, but it sure is a good walk.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.